everyone was just so happy to be back at work. But after that novelty kind of began to wear off, and you have one or two three putts here or there, a couple bogeys and a missed cut. It's amazing how quickly you don't miss the sport that you've been missing for the better part of 4 months. But
you're listening to the MatchKitCast with me, Ben Karpinski, bringing you closer to the athletes on the MatchKit.co platform. Alrighty, welcome to this week's edition of the MatchKitCast. Now we've got Brandon Stone returning. He is our first returning guest. So when I last chatted to you, when we started actually with MatchKit, you were one of our original guys who did sign up to the profile or to the platform. And we did showcase some content around what's in your bag for the year and how you're preparing for going back to the European Tour. And of course, getting in shape physically, mentally, and all those things. What's it like just firstly getting back on tour with all this sort of things in place around the COVID? Obviously, you've been on tour for quite a few years now, and you know the drill. And obviously, you've got a whole bunch of contacts over there, so it feels like a second home. But how different was it getting back on tour this time around?
Well, like you say, I mean, I've been out on tour now for the better part of 7 years, and I thought I kind of learned the ropes. And COVID has kind of just changed the shape of the ring. We've gone from boxing to UFC, it seems. The legislation, the rules, the protocols to follow that come with the European Tour bubble are exceptionally high detailed. They have thought of absolutely everything from only one person being allowed in an elevator at a time in the hotel to you're only allowed to share dinner tables with one person for the week. You're not allowed, the caddies aren't allowed to touch the same flag stick during the round. So if one caddy takes a flag stick, he's got to hold it for the rest of the hole, and then he puts it back at the end. So the tour really has thought of everything, and in true compliments to them, the amount of stuff that they've actually had to consider that they've really nailed is a true testament to the hard work that they've actually put in.
Now, golfers are people of habits, I bet, and especially around tournament week, everyone's got their own sort of procedures. Did you feel like some players, maybe yourself included, were quite flustered by this, or was it very much like you just become used to it after a couple of days?
Listen, the first 3 weeks were an utter breeze, I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, there was obviously the inconvenience of the bubble, but everyone was just so happy to be back at work. But after that novelty kind of began to wear off, and you have one or two three putts here or there, a couple bogeys and a missed cut. It's amazing how quickly you don't miss the sport that you've been missing for the better part of 4 months. But yeah, it's very unique. It's obviously a very unique world that we're living in at the minute, and it's unprecedented times. And I saw a meme the other day that said, "I can't wait for President Times to return," and I honestly do feel like that at the minute. But it's just weird. Like you say, you obviously have these routines that you so used to following. Like, for example, after a round of golf at Portugal, go do your practice after the round, and then you go lie by the pool. Whereas now you can't do that. You have to go back to your hotel room. So besides becoming pretty decent at Call of Duty, my social life has probably taken a massive toll.
Now, you played 7 events, so one of the things that we did speak about prior to you going back over there was the fact that your conditioning has improved so much in the last few years that you can actually go on these longer stretches, and in the process you are a better golfer as a result. So quite an up and down sort of set of results. I don't need to remind you of that, so we can go through it. Maybe not too much in depth.
Let's not go through it. We'll just leave it at that.
How much in a stretch like this, this was always going to be the English swing with a few added events. During this kind of time, how much do you analyze your game? Like, do you look at the stats? Do you look at where you may be going wrong? Or are you looking at what's good? And then from such a condensed sort of structure like this, how much time do you actually get to apply yourself to, say, a certain area of your game?
So you listen, the like you say, the time frame is obviously quite limiting at the minute because it's kind of non-stop. But especially like now, like I say, sitting in my apartment in London, I haven't really been doing nothing. I have been checking up the stats over the last 6-7 weeks and of performances, and there's obviously going to be a trend. And the trend doesn't change a lot. People think that you find a miracle cure all of a sudden and you're a completely different player. That really isn't the case. The issue that I struggled with over the last 7 events are the exact same issues I've had during my entire career, where the ball striking has been very good, very consistent on good weeks, and the short game is pretty decent, kind of keeps up to par, and then the bad weeks it kind of the ball striking takes a step back, and because of that, the short game becomes under pressure, and you start making a lot more bogeys. So it's not rocket science for me. I know I need to improve my short game. The weeks where my ball striking is on, like it was last week in Portugal, I felt like I was hitting the ball really, really well. I was top 10 in greens in regulation, top 10 in distance off the tee, and I just gave up way too many shots on the putting green. So reflecting back on that today and tomorrow, obviously when we get back to training for the upcoming events from Wednesday, a lot more emphasis will be put on those aspects. But at the same time, in my routine of preparation for a tournament when I arrive, a lot of emphasis has been put on those aspects already. So it's kind of one of those, you don't want to upset the system by changing everything, but at the same time you need to change something in order to kind of shake things up and get a different result. Like Einstein always said, the art of insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result. So you kind of need to evolve your program and evolve the way that you're preparing in order for you to change the way that you're participating. And having consulted my coach and so on and so forth and the team around me, you just develop these slight little adjustments here or there. Like I really struggle with my pace putting on the quicker greens in Portugal and Valderrama. So when we do get to Belfast next week, kind of just put a little bit more emphasis on the pace of the putts that we're hitting, and that'll obviously help in different aspects altogether. But like you asked, I'm a very statistically driven person, but in moderation. I don't think as a professional golfer you can ever just look at stats after one round and judge your performance on that. It needs to be trend setting. So these 7 events over the last 8 weeks is the perfect time to look back and see, this is where I struggled. Was it putts inside 10 feet? Was it putt outside 10 feet? Was it my chipping from the rough, chipping from the fairway? Was it my sand play? Was it my wedging? Was it this? Was it that? And, we have all these golf statistic apps that kind of delve down all into ultra fine detail, and then kind of print a report out for these last events, and you kind of build on it from there, and you see if there's any improvements, you see where you can improve, you see what's probably costing you the most, and just progress from there.
When you actually get to a tournament week, now this obviously some tournaments change from week to week, and how the sort of params are structured, how much time you have, and obviously the sort of requirements on the golf course that week. Is there a basic sort of foundation that you go by? So do you always arrive on, say, the Sunday or the Monday? Obviously, depending if there's a weekend prior that you are playing. But for instance, you go there now with a week free. What is your sort of game plan getting into a tournament?
More often than not, that will actually depend on if we've played the golf course or not. So, for example, Portugal this past week, I only flew in on Tuesday afternoon because I'd played there so many times before. So you have a very good understanding of the strategy and the game plan that comes attached to the golf course. So the biggest aspect that would probably change when you arrive would actually be the golf course itself. With regards to preparation, though, my structures are always the same. There's certain criteria that I need to meet. There's, if you want to call it, a checklist that I need to obtain with regards to my putting drills. Probably got about 5 or 6 putting drills that I need to do and need to accomplish, and they'll take all of them combined around 4 hours. So over Tuesday and Wednesday, you kind of allocate time for that. There's wedge tests and iron tests and driving tests that I do on my TrackMan that will take a better part of 3-4 hours at a time. So, and then there's obviously the chipping test and chipping drills and so on and so forth that allocates a lot of time. So you're probably looking at the better part of 12 hours just in drills and preparation that you need to accomplish, or I feel like I need to accomplish before I tee up on Thursday. So obviously arriving on Monday evening and then starting early Tuesday would be a lot easier to accomplish that. But more often than not, like you say, like this week when I have a week off, I'll fly probably Monday morning, get there, do my COVID test, which is the highlight of my week, and then sit in my hotel room for 3-4 hours, wait for my negative test result. Once I get that, I can go train. You kind of bash out these drills, and then drills and drills and drills and drills, because it kind of just fine-tunes things, kind of dials you in and just kind of creates that high intensity tournament environment whilst you're practicing, because once you step up on the first tee on Thursday, it's green light and you got to go. And I found the best way for me to accomplish that and to get through that is by having this checklist that I need to tick off every item before I tee up on Thursday. And yeah, it serves me well.
Very nice. So obviously there was unfortunate news about the Nedbank Challenge being cancelled for this year. The rest of the year is a little bit undecided, but what does the rest of 2020 hold for you schedule-wise?
At the moment, like you say, we're kind of taking it week by week. Obviously, absolutely gutted for Nedbank not to be happening this year. I mean, that has been the staple of South African golf for the better part of 3 decades now. And to see that not on the schedule is very sad. But with that being taken off the schedule, I don't quite know when I'm coming back to South Africa. So that was quite a weird scenario now, where that was always going to be the week that I came home. And I have to reevaluate all of those plans. But the schedule for me at the minute is obviously looking like Belfast next week, and then Scottish Open at the Renaissance Club the week after, and then Wentworth for the BMW PGA the week after that, which ironically is about 15 minutes down the road, but I will be having to stay at a hotel to maintain the European Tour's bubble policy. So that's going to be the 1 week a year that I would have actually had to been able to stay in my apartment in London. I have been stripped of that, if you want to call it, but it'll be okay. And then kind of after that, it's uncertain, as you say. There's obviously events in Sicily. Not Sicily, Cyprus, rather. There's some events in Cyprus. Italian Open's been confirmed. I've heard rumors of a potential Middle Eastern swing before Dubai Grand Final. So I really don't know what's in store for us. And it's kind of refreshing, and also a little bit unnerving at the same time, where you don't know when you're going to work. But it's kind of nice not having had a schedule planned out for the entire year, so you know when you're allowed to do anything. It's kind of like, okay, well, I feel good this week, so I might as well go play some golf. Well, this week, I really don't feel up to it. Look, like for example, the Monday of the Hero UK Championship at the Belfry, I looked at the weather forecast and it's just like, no. I just don't feel like being in the rain for an entire week. So it's just so in the grey at the minute, but it's probably the first time that my schedule's been in the grey for 7-8 years now. So it's got its own challenges, but it's also got its own luxuries.
Brandon, thanks so much for your time today. I'm looking at the stats. I don't want to get into it, but hopefully all things turn around with the putter mostly, and then we'll have a different conversation about you obviously challenging a lot more for titles and raising a few trophies too.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
All right, guys. If you want to see more of Brandon, obviously matchkit.co/Brandon M. Stone. You get all his social media there, as well as some great content of Brandon, and then follow his career further from here, because entertaining guy, and he's obviously got the right mindset to be at this level. So wish him nothing but the best. Ciao. Are you an athlete looking to better commercialize your career? Visit matchkit.co/register and see what this unique web builder can do for your sporting profile.